why they well, Jennings wanted more money, but I know I get it. I mean, you went in a limited time career, it tends to be about the dollars, but yeah, it's tough to see him leave and, you know.
Well, I think the whole Manning thing proved that it's a business.
Did you know you can support the Techology Show when you shop at Amazon.com? Become a friend of the show by starting your shopping at thetechnologyshow.com/shop. It's Tuesday, October the 29th, 2013, live from Rural Pickens, South Carolina, the podcasting hall of Techology Studios in Tony's house.
Yes.
In fact, his old bedroom. I'm Matthew Teachy.
I'm Heath Mulliken.
And I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Techology Show, a weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. This is episode 223. When am I going to get past this being my old bedroom, guys?
Hey,
we just need to
TG
completely...
brings it up every week. I'm fine with it.
It kind of brings up bad visions, doesn't it?
let's just rework the intro to the show. Welcome to my
my old bedroom.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Leon Phelps. I'm the ladies man.
All right, so good football weekend for you. So what? I mean, Clemson won. They bounced back.
Clemson won. We struggled against Maryland, which this is Clemson. If you're a Clemson fan and you're surprised by anything you see, you should not be surprised if Clemson wins by 100. You should not be surprised if Clemson struggles against mediocre teams. You should not be surprised if Clemson gets blown out against a team.
Listen, the Gamecocks throttled Missouri.
Hey, they beat an undefeated team, and that's good, man. That was a big victory.
At the end of the day, they won. Packers are looking good. I mean, they went up to Minnesota and handled business, so listen, I'm happy.
I've said this before. I could not tell you the record of any NFL team because I only care about the players and their health, which we'll talk about in They Said It today, and how they do for my fantasy team. And I had a good weekend. Won in all three of my leagues. So moving right ahead toward the championship.
All right, you and your fantasy league. All right, hey Teach, take a moment and talk about once again just the Amazon affiliate and how the people can help us out there.
So it's been a huge support to us, and
yes.
When you do your shopping at Amazon.com. By starting at our website, we get a portion of that. You guys have done so good that our affiliate percentage rate has climbed over the past week, which that's an exciting thing. And at the end of the show, I will give you the spending report for this week. There's some fun things that have been bought at Amazon.com using our affiliate link. And like you said, you could, just for fun, go.
I can't wait to find out what we bought.
Go find the most wild thing to purchase, and we might talk about it on the air. But when you start your shopping at thetechologyshow.com/shop, or if you go to our website and click that banner or that button, that comes back to us, and it's hugely impactful for us, especially as we work up towards this Christmas season. I think more and more of us are spending money on Amazon or other online retailers, and it doesn't cost you anything, and we reap a benefit from it.
So if you buy us a Christmas present, we're blessed once, and if you buy it through our affiliate link, we're blessed twice.
It's a double blessing.
It is.
Real quick, we'll talk more about it after at the end of the show today, but we are beginning to offer sponsorship for our show. We actually have someone who's going to be coming on as a sponsor in January, and for the first 6 months of the year, 2 out of the 4 Tuesdays out of every month they're going to be sponsoring. But again, we'll talk about that more at the close of the show, and I think that our venue, there are 2 benefits that we offer if you sponsor our show, and we'll get into that. Yeah,
you can go to thetechologyshow.com/sponsor for details on that. Yeah.
And one way you can help our show without spending a dime is just go on iTunes and download the episodes. If you got the podcast app on your phone, download us, rate us, review us, and that helps out a lot. And one of the things that we're helping to promote right now is what the Wesleyan Church in Biblica is doing. It's called the Community Bible Experience. If you want to find out more about that, you can go to 40daybible.com. You can also go to the special link they've got just for the Wesleyan Church, which is, and this is very easy to remember, 40daybible.com/the Wesleyan Church. And what this is our denomination is trying to get everybody in our churches to read through the New Testament in 40 days, starting next February through Easter. I actually got my complimentary copy of the books of the Bible, which is the New Testament. It's in a different order, and they explain all that to you. It's reading 10 pages a day. for 40 days. And I'm excited to get our church. I mean, I've already got people say, hey, when can I get mine? When can I get mine? And so it's a great way to get your church all in to reading the Bible. And speaking of all in, Mark Batterson, we're going to be interviewing him later on today. His new book's All In. You can go pick that up, technologyshow.com/shop, and then pick up his book on, it's one of his, we love all of his books, but it's a good one. It's a really good one, and looking
Now
forward
you say
to
we're
that
going to
conversation.
interview him later today, but that will
By
air
that
next
we
week.
mean-
Yeah. That's it's the wonders of technology. And last week we interviewed Dr. Bob Weitzel, and he's also an excellent author. And today we're giving away Kindle versions of 2 of his books, Cure for the Common Church and The Healthy Church, which kind of go together. Sequel
They are.
and
That's what he
prequel.
said. Yeah, they are a pair.
And our winner for that is faithful Technology Show supporter Elizabeth Bentley there in Ashburn, North Carolina. So Elizabeth will be getting in contact with you and getting these booked to you. But thanks for entering, and make sure you pay attention to the Technology Show. You never know when or what we're going to be giving something.
Yeah, all
away.
she needs to send us is her email, and then we'll
That's
just send
right.
those directly from
And
Amazon.
Social Security number.
Hey, real quick, let me
credit card.
talk about another book. We had David Drury on, 3 weeks ago,
Yes.
and if you go to beingdad.com, his book, that is what I just like to say. It's a book about intentional parenting.
Yeah.
And great read. I'm still gleaning a lot from that, and would highly recommend it. All right, we want to introduce to you our guest today. Our guest is Evan Money. Evan is a best-selling author, global entrepreneur, and online life coach. He's been interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, CBS News, and the Sporting News. Today, we welcome him to the show to talk about his film, Words of Art. Evan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. And now I can add the Technology Show to that litany of we'll get rid of the Wall Street Journal and put you guys up there first.
Hey,
Yeah,
there you go.
that'd be awesome.
That'd be great. All right, for people who aren't familiar with this, what I'd like to do, Evan, let's just start out with the trailer of the film, and then we'll jump into our questions.
Oh, well, good gracious, Matthew. I had this
Well.
queued up. Sorry, guys. I bet they wouldn't do this on the
No.
Wall Street Journal, would they?
Now we'll jump into it.
Oh, well, give me a second. Gotta find it. Don't know what happened to it. Oh, guys.
Where'd it go?
I don't know.
Okay, Matthew, well, I'll tell you what. While
Yeah.
you're looking for it, I brought some special gifts on the show for Heath and Tony specifically.
Okay,
Oh,
all
So
right.
can we do that, or do you
Please,
want to
yeah,
wait?
please
Go
do
ahead.
while I
That'd
queue
be
it
great.
up. Please do.
Okay, so first of all, for you, Heath, I brought my vintage Atari
Nice.
2600.
That is awesome.
Yes.
My dad had that.
We still use this to this day with my kids. This is the first video game they've ever played.
Wow.
So we don't have Xbox. We don't have any of that other nonsense. 2600. And, of course,
Love it.
the most iconic game, just for you, Heath, Combat.
That's right.
there.
Yes.
Vintage
Really? I love it.
Combat.
I love
Okay,
it.
so I brought that for you. And then, of course, I wore the Super Bowl ring.
Oh,
for all
yeah.
the
Good.
Yeah.
fans out there to unite. So,
Yeah.
I got one for each of you. Matthew, I didn't know too much about you
Yeah.
other than you don't need Hair Club for Men, but
That's-
I do.
that's
So,
Well, that compliment is great. I'm queued up. We're ready to roll,
All
so
right,
let's
awesome.
watch this trailer.
That's it.
I don't remember the day that you left. I just remember more room to play hide and seek in Mom's closet. But on the day I learned you wouldn't be returning, I hung a noose around Disney Romance, watched its last breath kick the air while it hoped for some part of me to still believe that this paperweight heart could hold down a man.
Words are very powerful. Words can be healers and slayers.
I have a dream.
He used words to speak to the conscience of a nation.
Words have a tremendous emotional impact.
The clearest God ever spoke to me. He said, "This is what I want you to do for the rest of your life."
What's really important is being able to have a connection with your message and to convey that connection.
He would get on stage and he would love people. When people saw that message communicated in love, it would change everything.
Some people do really find fault like there's a reward for it. They really do.
When God releases a flood of His power, nothing will be able to stop it.
I rap because I feel like that's the easiest way to get my message through.
I love the personal challenge of moving people.
Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Oh, yes, they will.
All right, Evan. As we begin here, talk to us about what inspired you to do the project, and just kind of the genesis of this whole thing.
Well, luckily you said you give me a half hour to interview with me because I'm a verbal processor. So there's a little of that, I don't know, Baptist ministry in me where 5 minutes is 50 minutes. But I will try to keep it condensed for everyone. But real quick, just for your audience, so the I don't know, hundreds of thousands or millions of pastors that are listening, and for you guys, I just want everyone to know that I totally get you guys, and I understand that, hey, when the phone rings, people aren't calling you to say, oh gosh, life is so great, this is so wonderful, I've got God's favor, I'm doing awesome, thanks Pastor, I love you, click. No, it's always, the sky's falling and fix it now kind of thing. So I understand where a lot of your viewers are, and so with that, again, I just want to know that I get who I'm talking to.
Sure.
So I really appreciate you guys. And just, again, the verse for you I have is not to grow weary in doing good works, because it sometimes can be a thankless position. And I know why you retreat to your room to do the show, because it allows you guys to kind of get some of it off and have a great time. So with that, with the movie, it really was a giant process. We talked earlier off the air, which I think would be a fun show too. We could have the technology show off the air. And I started my career in radio really the same way this movie began. So the short version for my radio career was I'm driving on the road, listening to talk radio, and it seemed that every time I turned it on, the same guy was on. And he wasn't very good. And it wasn't that I didn't like what he was saying. He was a big fan, a Clemson fan, and, USC fan and all this stuff. So it wasn't like I didn't like what he was saying, but he just wasn't very good on air. And I felt something, Joel talks about it all the time. I just felt something deep down. God was just saying, you could do better than this. And so I had a choice. I could either do better than this. And so again, I could go write a, 1-star hate blog on Netflix or whatever, but I said, you know what? I could do that. I really could do that. And a few days later, I'm in the shower. This is a side note, but in my shower, I have a waterproof notepad because
Nice.
all of you guys sitting there, and I'll help you out. All of you, Matthew, Tony, Heath, all you guys, you all have a $10 million shower at home. Now, your $10 million shower happens to be probably right next door to the room you guys are in. You're saying, $10 million shower? Come on now, this is in LA. Real estate values are different. We all have $10 million worth of ideas still in our shower. They're still there. And so we're all guilty of that. So what I did is I invested the $15. So if you go to the technology show Amazon, and for $15, you can buy a waterproof tablet.
Yes,
links
in the show notes.
In my shower. There you go. So I'm able to take notes in my shower with this waterproof notepad. And so I'm in the middle of the hot water and doing the whole thing, and all of a sudden God says, words of art. And I was like, okay, that's it. So I still have, I should have brought that from I still have the piece of paper, the waterproof piece of paper that I wrote it down on, words of art. And that's where I went from. I went from surely I could do better than this to I have a title. Now what do I do? And so that was the beginning.
Yeah, cool.
In the promo for the movie, we just see some of these world-renowned speakers and leaders and authors and pastors. What was it like to interview some of those people?
Well, unfortunately, your guys' agents never got back to me, so I didn't
they're fired.
But at least I'm on the show, so I feel good about that. But Yeah, it was. Again, part of the deal for the movie, my next kind of idea was, well, who should I get to be in it? And originally I wanted to kind of pay tribute to the icons that really influenced me, like a Zig Ziglar or a Dennis Waitley, or a lot of these guys that were starting to pass away, like Jim Rohn a couple years ago. And so, hey, I want to catch some of these guys before they're all dead. That was part of it. And the other part of it was I was as starstruck can be, just communicating with these guys, talking with these guys. And it really was, from a selfish personal side, even if, the movie doesn't win all the Academy Awards that I wanted to win, I still got the best deal out of it, just being able to associate and connect with these guys. And it was, again, I just felt, like this little kid, seeing their favorite athlete walk by, or, most of the guests or any of your fans, when they see you walking down the street, oh my gosh, there's Tony D.
We get that all
so
the time.
it was super exciting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the trailer there are a couple moments that grabbed me. One is, Zig Ziglar talks about how some people act as though criticism, I don't have the right word here, but there's a reward in that. And then also right at the end there, where this old notion of sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Oh, yes, they do. And I think one of the things that the trailer of this movie is just really communicates is the power of words and the power of communication. There are times on our show while conducting interviews that we have these moments that we just remember for whatever reason. Surely, throughout this whole process of doing this, you got to have like just some moments that will just stick in your mind. What would some of those be?
Ooh, I actually had to do research for that one, because we literally have over 20 hours worth of footage.
Wow.
And luckily for me, as a visionary, big picture, ADD, shiny object, ooh, what's that? After every interview, I would write down little notes to myself.
Okay.
Because again, we started filming last November, so this has been quite a journey. So I'll tell you my top four, if you will. Top four. One of the first ones was Dennis Waitley, and these aren't in order, but Dennis was kind enough to invite us over to his home. So what was so impactful for me, and more demos here. This is a cassette tape that I've been carrying around and listening to for the last 20 years. This is the second personal growth tape I ever listened to, ever. And it is, let's see if we can put it to the camera, Dennis Waitley.
There it is, yeah, you can see it.
Yeah. And so what Dennis was nice enough to do is, after the interview, he took us to lunch, and he was nice enough to autograph the cassette tape for me.
Wow.
Nice.
And so it was, and what was really interesting was Dennis was very open and very personal about talking to us about some of, I asked him what some of his biggest mistakes were off camera. And he was willing to, impart this grandfatherly wisdom to me and really help me understand some things. And I was just like, whoa. So I'm getting mentored by, this icon. And it was magical for me. But just the concept of him signing the tape, and I just remember where I was 20 years ago, first listening to this, and to think, hey, you're going to hang out with this guy one day. I was like, no way. Next one for me was a moment for sure was Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
And we contacted Zig before he went to heaven. And what was really neat was actually, and this is where it comes together, is they were the first yes. They were the first people to say yes to the project. Because I didn't have anything to pitch them. I didn't have any other movies that I made. I didn't have anything. Sure. I just had, hey, do you want to be in Words of Art? And
we've been there.
And so I talked to, for all the Zig Ziglar fans out there and all the pastors out there, if you're a huge fan, you may know the name Laurie Majors, which is Zig's long time for 40-year assistant. So I'm talking to Laurie Majors on the phone, and I'm getting starstruck on the phone. I'm just like, I'm talking to Laurie Majors. But the big moment for me was, we scheduled the interview, and they were up front. They said, hey, you know what? Zig's not in the best health. He's probably not going to want to do it. But you know what? Tom's on board. That's his son. Tom Ziglar is carrying on the flag. And Tom's on board. Tom's excited. Come on down. Again, we can't guarantee Zig. But so unfortunately, Zig passed away like a week before the interview.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, oh man, I missed the window. The interview's off now, and I'm just whoa, pours me, but they're like, no, please come. We still want to do this. I was like, awesome. So I'm sitting there in Tom's office chatting with Tom, and we're doing the interview. And then Tom looks at me and he says, I was talking to my dad the other week, and he was sitting in that chair, that you're in right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, I'm sitting in I mean, really, it was.
Oh, hey, listen, Zig Ziglar, for those of us, for me, he got on the radar screen in my life in the 80s, and just what a guy, what a motivator, but a guy whose character was just sterling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the big thing that Zig taught me, and I still, to this day, my kids listen to, it's not their choice, it's my choice, but they listen to Zig Ziglar during their quiet times, and one of the great things that Zig taught me was, he says, because in your guys, as the pastor title, obviously you have some leeway. And when depending on different venues, when I talk in different churches or when I talk before, different organizations or whatever. But Zig taught me, he said, I teach biblical principles. I don't preach them.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's why it was such a great connection. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, he teaches, he doesn't preach. I was like, I got it. So I could talk all day about Zig, but and Zig's hairline. I mean, come on. But the next one that a lot of people always want to know about, is Joel Osteen. And I know Joel has various approval ratings with some of your listeners, but what I can tell you about my experience with Joel and the whole process and, how did you get to Joel and how did that work and da-da-da-da-da. And I'll tell you the short version of how I connected with Joel was I asked him. And what's interesting about this film is a lot of us, I mean, we pray, we're seeking for God's wisdom, we want God to move. And I did all that, but at the same time, I had to call everyone.
Very good.
It's in my movie, I had to call them. Yep. I didn't pray. Joel did not call me.
Yeah.
Dennis Whaley did not call me. Zig didn't call me. Nobody called me. I had to call them. So multiple times. Yeah. So as I got connected to Joel, the whole church experience, I was there early. We went through 2 services. They literally gave us the full behind the scenes tour. Wow. I mean, nothing was off limits. They showed us the trash cans. They showed us the behind the scenes stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they were very open, very authentic. It was so interesting. In LA, my bride and I we've moved a little bit. LA is a big town, so there's probably for every quarter square mile, there's 10 churches. I mean, it's church central over here. So a church that we had a few years ago ran about 45 people. So small church, 45 people. I felt more welcomed, more warm, and more connected in Joel's church of 30,000 than I did at our 45-person church.
Wow.
And part of that is the LA mentality, but also it goes to the authenticity of a lot of the people in that church. And so that was the first one. I was just like, wow, why do I feel so connected here? And then the real thing with Joel is he's really authentic. Joel is Joel, and that's the only way that he's been able to sustain that, because if he wasn't himself, you can't sustain that facade for 10 years or 12 years, however he's been preaching. So he was the same guy on the stage as he was off the stage. And I had some of his, one of the huge moments for me was I shared some tears with one of the worship leaders during the week. And they were nice enough to put me on the front row. I got to be on TV, and see my head shining. And that was a treat. But afterwards, this gal came up to me and they were nice. They let us have the cameras and the whole deal. And so this gal comes up to me. She's like, "Who are you? What's going on?" I'm just like, "Well, I'm doing a documentary, Words of Art, and Joel's going to be interviewing Joel later." And she's like, she just kind of pulled me aside, and we really had an emotional moment. She goes, "Ed, there's really something I really want to tell you." And I'm just like, "Well, what's that?" And she goes, I'm a worship leader here on Wednesday nights, and my son, and Joel's actually talked about her son in some of the sermons, has really high autism, like high autism, like doesn't speak autism. And they have 5 kids. And the short version is Joel pulled her aside and said, "Hey, look, you know what? I want to pay for your son's schooling for the rest of his life. I know we don't pay you enough here. I know we can't. This is just something I want to do. This is just like total stealth, not trumpet to the world, just total stealth giving. And she was just like, I just need you to understand his character. And I was like, whoa. Because for me personally, I was afraid for a lot of these guys that, you know, I've looked up to them for so long that I was afraid some of them might be fake.
Yeah.
You know, maybe Dennis isn't really like that. Or
Yeah.
maybe Zig isn't really like that. Or maybe like Joel, who knows? Maybe Joel is like some of these,
Right. Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. So
Sure.
there was some trepidation there because I'm like, well, what if they're jerks? But in every case, their authenticity, everybody that I interviewed was way above what I could think or imagine. And the last one, I went a couple funny ones. So we'll go from tears to cheers here.
Yeah.
We did an interview with an amazing man named Steve Thompson. I don't want to go in his background. I know time-wise, but we actually did the interview in his plane. So he had his own plane. So it's always nice to have friends with cool toys. So we did the interview in his plane. He said, hey, we were in Dallas. And he said, hey, let's fly up. I go, hey, let's fly up and look around the Dallas stadium. Because everybody wanted to see, you know, the big Dallas Cowboy Stadium. And, you know, can I see the TV from up here? You know, the big screen. So we're flying around. And his plane is really built for high altitude, like super long distance kind of thing. So we're flying low altitude around the stadium. And myself and my cameraman literally almost threw up in his plane. And so all I could think was, don't throw up in Steve's plane, don't throw up in Steve's plane. He didn't have any air safe bags, and so I'm just like,
Ah, gee.
So we landed and I survived, but my cameraman did not survive. He just ran straight to the restroom and lost his lunch there. So that was one of our funny ones. And then the last one I want to leave with you guys as interviewers. This is what I learned from Darren Hardy, who's the publisher of Success Magazine. He also had a great book called, I did a New York Times bestseller. It was The Compound Effect.
Okay.
And just how little things compound. And a really interesting book. But here's the big thing. He told me off camera. He said, Evan, you know what you really want to do when you're interviewing someone? This is what you're looking for. You want that person to say, oh my gosh, can I have a recording? Can I have a video? Can I get that? You know, because what I said was some of the most amazing things I've ever said before.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's what you're looking for. That's what you want to do when you're interviewing someone, to kind of pull that best interview out of them. And I was like, oh, yeah. So those are just a few of the highlights for me.
Yeah. So when do you anticipate the film being released? Where can people go see it, and how can they support Words of Art?
Well, in a perfect world, we could do a JV connection where they can buy through the technology through Amazon and do some massive DVD sales that way. But as far as the film, we are currently, my main focus was, you know what, I want to focus on building a great film. And yeah, there's a whole marketing side and all this side. And I think a lot of pastors struggle with that too. It's like, hey, you know what, I want to serve, I want to give to the, you know, to my flock, but at the same time, hey, we got to grow the church, we got to do this, we got to do that. So there's this kind of, you know, there's a great book called The War of Art. And so it's kind of that same thing. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I have to market the film, but for me personally, I want to make something of high quality first, because a lot of us have seen great marketing and bad films. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh. And then we've all seen great films, right, that no one's ever heard about.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, how's that mix going to do? So right now we're still just focusing on completing the film and taking 20 hours down to 1 or 1.5. But in a perfect world, we have a few connections. We'd love to see it in theaters and do that whole thing and then push the DVD and all that. So I'd love to give you guys a for sure date. I don't have it yet. But what I will do, I will do for Gamecock fans, you know, the Clemson pastors I'm not too sure about, but for the real USC, just so you know, I learned
That's right, the real USC. Thank you.
Real USC. What's going on West Coast? You know, those Heisman Trophy, whatever. Nah. The real USC. I will invite you guys. Yeah, and Matthew, because you're laughing at my jokes, you can come too.
Okay.
I do have spots for you guys at the red carpet VIP grand premiere that we're going to have in Hollywood. So
all right.
what I'm going to apologize ahead of time for the amount of money your brides want to spend on their dress to be on the red carpet. But you guys are welcome to come on out. I'll have seats, again, for you and your brides to come on out and enjoy the red carpet, do the whole thing. I can't guarantee that you're going to sit next to Joel or Tom Ziglar or anything, but
That's
We'll
okay.
have a
We
great time.
don't. We don't need
You guys
that
will
guarantee.
come.
All we need to know is that your friend that you've made now with an airplane can come.
That's right. That's right.
We promise we'll bring our own barf bags and we won't throw up. Well, Evan, thank you so much for taking time out of what we know is a big, busy schedule. We'll keep an eye out for this, and certainly wish you the best, and just blessings on you. Could you just take a moment, if people want to find out more about you and maybe some of the coaching that you do, where can they go for that?
Oh, see, look at these amazing plugs here. You got to love that. So for me personally, I really have a passion of really the tagline for the movie is success is one thing and impact is another. And so, yeah, it's great to be the entrepreneur and this guy and that guy and have success, but at this stage in my life, understanding it's really about impact. So I would be honored, to connect and speak for any organization or church out there that would have me. Budgets typically, are 0 to whatever. I mean, it just depends on the situation and the audience and if people can resonate with me. But you can go to the official Evan website, which is evanmoneyleadership.com. That's evanmoneyleadership.com. And in there, you'll see on the front page, lastly, I'm a big proponent of the 3 pillars of true success, which are health, relationships, and then finances. And typically, unfortunately, pastors seem to struggle in all 3 of those areas. And so those are the key areas that I really like to help people with, again, is health, relationships, and finances. Because health is the real wealth. Relationships, obviously, are the real wealth. And then finances, again, that's relative. But wherever it is, there's some key mental blocks that a lot of people have. So I'm very passionate about that, helping people with that. So evanmoneyleadership.com.
Well, and in regards to that health deal in the pre-show, again, just behind the scenes stuff, you actually had coached Heath into making a commitment that I'd love for him to give on air today.
That's right.
So it's recorded for posterity.
Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
So we got connected with Evan through our friend Zach Woodfin, assistant strength and conditioning coach for the Green Bay Packers. And Evan was sharing how Zach blessed him with some coaching to improve his 40 speed. So Evan got his 40 time down to what you said, 4.8 seconds, right?
4.8, maybe 4.8 at 42.
Which I think Deion Sanders ran like a 3.9, which is, I don't know the world record. So anyway, I have said January the 14th, we don't have a technology show that day because we're going to be at the pastors' gathering.
That's right.
My goal that day.
There it is.
Sometime that day, probably before a meal, is to run a 6-second 40-yard dash.
So we will bring the footage to you for the show immediately
6,
following that.
40.
It's written down. Okay.
So thank you, Evan, not only for being on the show, but giving us this moment that we can replay in January.
Yes.
Hey, blessings on you. Again, thanks. Have a wonderful day.
Much.
And Lord be with you as you complete this project.
No, guys, an honor to be here. And just, again, I love to laugh and enjoy guys with great characters. So, again, truly honored to be on the show.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Hey, thank you very much.
All right. We'll be looking forward to that. And when it gets out, we'll certainly let you know. All right. Let's keep rolling along here. Time for...
No, that's Elizabeth. There we go.
Elizabeth Bentley is the download of the week.
I don't even know what that means.
Okay, let's watch out.
Yes.
Here we go. Download of the week.
All right. Download of the week is an app called Locket. And don't you know, I forgot to bring my tablet in here.
But it's cool. We got a little demo video. This is actually something I had it was not on my radar at all, but a very good idea to give you the general concept of what the app is doing. It's a lock screen for an Android phone where it uses that to show ads in the same way that like a Kindle that's sponsored when it you can save money on an Amazon Kindle by getting an ad supported version that when it's locked, you first power it up, there's an ad there. Well, this will work on other Android devices. It'll do sort of the same thing, but what they're saying is that first impression is valuable, and if you don't pursue the ad, we want to pay you just to be on your home screen. So every time you unlock your device, you earn what?
1 penny.
1 penny. But that adds up over time as you continue to use the device. And what they're doing, you can get paid with that. But the reason I think that we like it is you can give it away
to a charity.
You can support charities with the money that you earn just simply by unlocking your phone. So it's a charitable act to check your emails. Here's a little video that will demo it for us.
What if you could get paid to brush your teeth, breathe air, or check your phone? Meet Locket. Locket pays you to check your smartphone, something you do 50 times a day. Companies advertise their products, events, and coupons on your lock screen. At one swipe, you can choose to engage or ignore the ad. Either way, you get paid. Ads are targeted based on a persona algorithm utilizing historical and real-time geolocation data, purchasing patterns, and mobile app usage. In the app, you can do more. Bring your friend and get $1, so you can buy the things you want, like a donut, or you can pay your phone bill, or donate to charity. You can even cash out. So what are you waiting for? Start.
Okay, well that's on them, not us. So that's on them and their.
So what are you laughing
video.
about there, Heath?
I'm just watching that video, and they send a guy. He lives in your closet, follows you around all day, takes all notes, gives it to the NSA, and
there you
it's
go.
just scary.
So for me, I have this on my Nexus 7 tablet, and right now I've made a whopping $1.31 so far. But the point is this: if you had, 10, 12 people, and they all are concerned about the same charity, at the end of the year, I mean,
it's going to add up. And I mean, this is a principle that we teach our kids. I mean, we had a lesson not too long ago with our kids group that when everybody does a little bit, it adds up to a lot. And so to demonstrate that, we've been having offering to let kids bring in their offerings and doing that. And those kids, like in 8 weeks, there's $60 in this jar that we have just by kids bringing $1 or 50 cents or whatever, because it adds up. And so we like it for that. So definitely check that out.
If you're on Android, it's only on Android.
I was
right
thinking,
now.
if you've got, and again, this is just how my crazy brain works. If you have your phone set to lock every minute, you could theoretically unlock it.
Okay, there's
is
a
there
limit. Three
all right, I'm down.
3 unlocks per hour. So someone actually did the math on that. It's like, so if you were on it 24/7, they came up with the number. But yeah, it's three. The maximum of 3 unlocks in an hour. So the most you can make is 3 cents an hour.
That's disappointing.
Oh my word! No, I think it's great.
But again, if you're doing it and Tony's doing it,
we get 9. Or if you and you
6 cents.
If all
Clemson math.
No. I'm thinking you're saying the two of us would be 6 cents. I'm thinking, well, let's go one more.
There you go. Yeah. So that is, for those of you who are Survivor fans, that is Brad Culpepper math that Heath just threw out there. Okay.
All right, let's keep going here. Time for They Said It.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
Did the league know about the dangers of head trauma, and when did it know? How much was actively concealed by, among other tactics, the attempted subversion of scientific inquiry? Just how was that settlement with players arrived at, and how will the plaintiffs ultimately be affected? ESPN ombudsman Robert Lipsyte commenting on Frontline's episode League of Denial that focused upon head injuries in the NFL. Source ESPN.
We are seeing secular courts ruling on core components of Christian practice. The courts have acted to protect the Kara bracelet worn by Sikhs, Afro cornrow haircuts, the wearing of the hijab, and a Muslim's right to fast, but have refused to grant the protection to the cross or the Christian Sunday. Andrew Williams, founder of the Christian Legal Center, who's supporting Celestina Mba in her fight to have Sundays off on the basis of her Christian faith. Source, The Telegraph.
Our society allows for a very narrow stereotype of who and what is sexy, and very often it's about being sexy in a pornographic way. That's all you're seeing these days on television, movies, video games, and music videos. Another important message is that if you overinvest in looking a certain way, whether it's sexy or anything, you're overinvesting in something very superficial when you could be developing your talents and intelligence in multiple other ways. Counseling and school psychology professor Sharon Lamb expressing concerns over recent trends with sexy Halloween costumes for tweens and teens. Source USA Today.
In a world of omnipresent screens, it can be easy to forget the simple pleasure of curling up with a good book. In fact, a recent HuffPost YouGov poll of 1,000 U.S. adults found that 28% hadn't read a book at all in the past year. Laura Shocker reporting on a recent study which heralds the benefits of reading. Source, the Huffington Post. All right, couple things here. Let's go right at the top. This League of Denial. I watched this. It's 2 hours. Watched it over 2 nights. I started and finished the next night. As far as I know, it's still posted on the internet.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you real quick: is the special that was on? I mean, there's a new book that's out called League of Denial about all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Was the special in partnership with the book or just or
don't know? Couldn't
Okay,
tell you.
gotcha.
There are a couple things here. So this particular quote that I took out really has to do with the longtime center for the Steelers, Mike Webster, I think was his name, and he died in his late 40s.
Yeah.
But he got on disability, and what people didn't know was there was a lawsuit, and the NFL admitted to liability.
Yeah.
And he had doctors that were saying, well, his injuries are consistent with his career. So the NFL said, no, we'll have our doctor take a look at him.
Right.
So the NFL's doctor took a look at him and said to the NFL, yeah, these are injuries because...
Yeah.
And so that's one story. And so this gets into that. What did the NFL know? But there's a broader story, and I would say watch this, and it's over head injuries. And you have one lead researcher now where she has taken, I think, 48 brains. So family members have called to say, hey, we want you to have the brain of our loved one. And out of 48 of them, 47 have been diseased. And it's a particular type of disease. It's a protein that gets into the brain, and it wreaks havoc on the brain. And all these people have died early. By the time they're about 50, their lives are problematic. And this disease is directly related to head injuries.
Right. Here's first of all, the main question is, what did the NFL know? When did they know it? They have just settled a lawsuit with multiple players, with a payout or whatever. And you just hear from some of these old time players, even Brett Favre, who got a call from who called him about coming back? The Buccaneers?
The Rams, I think.
The Rams. And he said no, and he said, man, I have memory loss. There's days where I'll remember some things, and there's some things I don't remember. Now, here's what I would like to say. From here on out, if you play football, head injuries are a part of football. Not just football. Anything you do that requires you to wear a helmet, you are voluntarily putting yourself in a position to get a head injury, okay?
Okay.
And so I say that if you voluntarily play football and you are putting on a helmet,
okay, So let me add this in the documentary. The lead researcher, a woman, she comes from a football family. Her brothers played football. She played football. She's a huge football fan.
Yeah.
And she said, one day I was contacted by a family of a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
And he had committed suicide. Straight A student in an Ivy League school. And they said, can we send his brain to you?
Yeah.
She said, yeah, you can send it.
Yeah.
And what she says in the documentary is that I was prepared to just say to them, no, his brain was fine.
Yeah.
She said it was every bit as diseased as these veterans. And so she said one of the myths that it broke for me was I thought this was age-related. It's not age-related. And he had this 21-year-old who has this. So then the guy doing the interview presses her and says, should kids be playing football? And she said, you know what? We can't answer that because what we don't know is why do some people suffer? Why do others not?
Right.
And so he began to press her. And finally he said, listen, if you had an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old son, would you let him play football? And she pauses and she said, no, not knowing what I know now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
So my point is this. Can a kid take on the liability? I agree with you for adults.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what I'm getting into, but
Right.
what about these kids in Pee Wee leagues? The parents are pushing them, and
Well, to me, that's on the parent. Like, let me ask you this. Let's say, all right, my son Drake, he's getting ready. He's going to play basketball this year. Let's say that, Drake hits that age, 10, 11, 12. Hey, Drake, you're going to play football. I really don't want to play football. No, Drake, you really need to play football. And I force him to play football. And he gets a head injuries. And Drake gets to be in his mid-20s, and he suffers from that. Could Drake sue me as his parent? Could he take me to court and say, he made me play football, I've suffered head
listen, in the
injuries,
litigious society we live in, absolutely he could.
Yeah.
I mean, now, whether he could win, I'm not saying, but we sue over anything in this country.
The thing that bothers me the most, is you have ESPN tries to play both sides. Top 10 plays. Booyah! 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 Oh, yeah, head injuries are bad. You glorify.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So, obviously, it's not a laughing matter, these head injuries. It's just not as someone who I've had one concussion in my life. Excuse me. I've had at least one concussion in my life. I cannot imagine. When I hear an NFL player has a concussion, they're like, well, he might play this way. I'm like, no. How? I mean, I had a pretty severe concussion.
Yeah. Well, now the league's cracked down on that.
Oh yeah, and that, they've
You're not playing. You're not going in if they even have a hint of it. All right.
Yeah.
The story from the Telegraph. Just another one of these where all kinds of allowances are being made within the law, but it seems like on the religious side of things now, if you're a Christian, you're on the your rights are being squeezed out. This woman works in an industry where it's special needs children,
right?
And she just wants Sundays off, and so she's not been able to get that. And the company says, no, we don't have to let you have that off, and so she wants it off for religious reasons. And so it's a compelling story. I mean, read it. I think it has, to me, there's some legal concern there with how some of the rulings are going.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean,
he makes the point that so workers, and this is in England now. So certain jobs I cannot wear the cross because that's offensive. So the courts are not supporting. From a legal point of view, you can't wear the cross. But then you have other religions, and he cites things. Well, they get to wear this, they get to wear that. So why wouldn't the Christian have the same privilege?
So this isn't, and it's about talking about it in that way. I think we should have the same privilege. I don't think it's about, we shouldn't go into the argument saying they shouldn't be allowed to do that, because with the moment we do that, we're saying we shouldn't be allowed to do whatever it is that we're wanting to do.
Yeah.
And
this is where the lawyer's going. The lawyer's saying we've made allowances in the law.
Yeah, good.
So we ought to be making allowances for this as well.
Well, it goes back to a story a week or two ago where we talked about the youth pastors that couldn't go to the school anymore.
Great.
And you have to. I don't think we're asking. It's like strike zone on baseball. We don't care what it is. Just be consistent with it. And that's what I'm saying is, if you're going to allow Muslims to do certain things and give them time off for fasting and Ramadan and stuff like that, you have to be consistent and allow the same things for Christian. Now let me say something. I don't say this to be controversial. I'm just
oh sure.
But if you look, I mean, you say this is a story out of
We're
England.
not necessarily endorsing the word.
No. I'm just saying.
if you look at Mullick, it may not express the
right. Absolutely. But if you wait, is my mic still on? No. But if you looked at the map, and we're talking about a story in England, which we have pretty close ties with them. But if you look at society and the persecution of the church. you will see it's in subtle things like this, but it's definitely moving westward, I think. And it's stuff like this in England. You're gonna. I mean, I think. I think what you see in England today, maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, you're gonna see these kind of things. It's a gradual thing.
Yeah, I'll go with you down that trail to an extent. I have concerns and with TJ. I think TJ has done a really good job here of rooting out where I think we need to be on this, and that is we're not saying that Muslim can't wear that. What we're saying is that if the law has allowed for that, then there needs to be equal allowance in the law.
Yeah.
If I'm a Christian, if I'm a Mormon, so we'll just go broadly here.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I don't want to be a doomsday sayer or anything like that, but yeah, I'll go down that trail with you. It concerns me a little bit. Don't take Christians and use the law to push them out.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I think we all agreed that with these youth pastors, if we were getting the right story,
mm-hmm.
the idea that they were going into public school and proselyting, you can't do that. Why?
Right.
Because we don't want these. We don't want Hindus proselyting our kids. We don't want Muslims proselyting our kids.
Right.
We don't want Amway people proselyting. I mean, it's just broad.
Oh man. All right. So this week is Halloween. We have our trunk or treat, our big community trunk or treat Wednesday night, and we're at Party City yesterday, and our kids already have their costumes. Whatever. We're just there. We're just checking things out. And on the wall, they have a picture of all the costumes. And let me just tell you.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Are you just now realizing this?
I mean, it was just all right. And like I walk up behind Drake, and Drake's my 6-year-old son. He's just looking. He's kind of standing there looking, and I'm like, oh goodness. But the Batman, the like really nice Batman costume is right next to the sexy police officer.
Listen,
and I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm telling you, the reason why I link to this story is a lot of times for those of us in the church, we were looked at as prudish, as conservative, and loosen up a little bit. This interview in USA Today, these are two professors, these are research people. Yeah. They are not coming from this from a Christian perspective whatsoever.
Right.
And what they're saying in this is, we have a few concerns.
Yeah.
And she said it's not. She said to understand how these costumes have been sexualized.
Yeah.
She said, and let's just take the police. I'll just use your analogy.
Yeah.
She said it's not that you have the police officer's uniform for the boy and then the girl's looks the same. No, hers is a really short skirt.
No, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And it's sexualized. And we talk about the objectification of women as if they are objects for men to glean their pleasure from. Yeah. And their point, for both these professors, is that you only promote that stereotype in these costumes and to a demographic that doesn't understand.
Right. And this is what if you haven't been to Party City lately, if you haven't been out on Halloween, pretty much what is now an acceptable Halloween costume for a woman is what you used to would buy your wife out of the Victoria's Secret catalog for Christmas.
Hold on. What? You
what?
You shop in the Victoria's Secret catalog?
What?
That speaks to that's. I don't.
Listen,
I don't know. I've never bought a thing out of the Victoria's
If I'm
Secret
going to buy
catalog.
something like that, I'm going to buy it at the technologyshow.com/shop.
Oh no! Well, we have a moment. We have a moment in history here.
Oh my goodness!
Nice job, Tej. Way to pick up on that.
I didn't order it.
Lamb, one of the professors here, there's a line in here, and she talks about how this has been popularized through media. She talks about one movie entitled Mean Girls, and Lamb says the movie Mean Girls certainly helped popularize this. There's a line in the film repeated by many girls that Halloween is the one night of the year you can dress like a slut. So there is this attitude that sexy costumes are the cool costumes. And they talk about in this movie, the girl who dresses wholesome is made fun of the whole time.
Yeah. I know we got to move on, but I don't know if you guys saw this, but it goes along with this. We talked about Miley Cyrus and her deal with the VMAs and stuff, but I don't know if you saw this story where, and we're talking about what's acceptable to wear. Lady Gaga just performed this week. She performed at a homosexual club, and by the end of the show, the last song she did, completely nude, not wearing a stitch of clothing. And like, that's where society, I mean, that's where Halloween's heading.
You got to stop going to these clubs, Heath. You don't need to see things like that.
Heath is really raking up a lot of stuff for his.
Well, there was an ad for it in the Victoria's Secret catalog.
No. We have to censor the whole episode, Heath.
I want to make it very clear. Number one,
I have not.
No,
read my lips.
I
have never bought anything out of a catalog.
You are banned from the Mark Batterson interview. Okay, Matthew and I will handle that one by ourselves.
Speaking of reading,
this is a great story here. Just the benefits of reading, and it's not just the poll that they conducted. So in our quote here, we talk about a poll that they did, HuffPo, in connection with someone else, but it also gets into some really good research about reading, and there are just 7 things that it benefits, and not least of which one of these is it can ease depression. Also, one of the things that we struggle with in the church, we try to do in our preaching is, you have the golden rule where Jesus says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And one of the things the research seems to suggest is that the more that people read, the better equipped they are to put themselves in other people's shoes, to get outside of their own life, to say, well, wait a minute, I'm critical of that person, but I really don't know what it's like to have to experience what they experience and live what they live. So 7 things here. We link you in the show notes and encourage you to take a look at it. All right. As we have been saying, next week, our long-anticipated interview with Mark Batterson. I'm going to be talking about his book, All In. And as a result, we're going to be giving away a copy of that book. And we're going to go ahead and give away the traditional copy. So this is the handheld, the analog
real
version.
Speaking of traditional copies, just as a heads up for everybody, Kindle Matchbook went live today. That's where when you have a physical copy of the book, you can get the Kindle version. The sad thing is, it doesn't work in reverse. If you've bought a Kindle version of a book, which is what I was most excited for, there's not a cheaper version of the hard copy. So very interesting. I just, during the show, purchased the 3 books that I was eligible for at a discounted rate, physical copies that I have that are available Kindle-wise, and you can get them.
Did you buy them through the show?
You better believe I did.
Hey, what was the cost of that then?
They were one of them was $1.99 and 2 of them were $2.99.
Okay, yeah. And I go all the way back to I don't even remember, but like I have several books that are going to be eligible for that. So
you've been reading off the Kindle since Moses came down.
No, originally I resisted buying anything on Kindle, even when I just had the app. I didn't have a device. But I've got probably 10, 20 books that I bought. The hard copies, now I'll be able to go back and get the Kindle version.
So definitely go check that out. And while you're at Amazon, start your Amazon shopping by going to thetechnologyshow.com/shop, where over this past week, people have bought the books from Weitzel last week. Both copies of those books have been bought.
Yeah.
3 Bob Harper exercise DVDs.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Bob Harper, Pure Burn, Super Strength, Yoga for the Warrior.
That wasn't me.
And Cardio Conditioning. He's getting ready for his 40 in 6 or whatever was that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And then The Great Evangelical Recession, the 6 Factors That Will Crash the American Church, and How to Prepare.
Nice.
All of those by going to thetechnologyshow.com/shop, where you can also get a waterproof notepad.
Aha. Hey, Teach, talk about November the 12th. We're going to have the Planning Center on.
Yeah, Planning Center is a fantastic resource for the church. It's a way to organize services, schedule people, get your volunteers coordinated, get the people who are playing different parts in the service, from music to emceeing to welcoming to all kinds of different stuff. Get them all on the same page. Fantastic program that we've been using at Golden Grove now for a few months. I think it's amazing. It feels like I just discovered it, but it's been probably about 2 or 3 months now.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to hear from these guys, to hear their heart on why they've created what they've created and how it services the church. It's a big deal. So looking forward to that.
November the 19th, we're going to be doing our Black Friday special show.
Right.
Going to talk about gadgets and tech things that we love and we think are a good buy and something that you might want to take a look at.
That's right.
For your Christmas list. And, of course, you can start your shopping right here at the Techology Show. On November the 26th, we're going to have Marie Cattle with us. This is a nurse in the hospital at La Guanave in Haiti. And we got to know her. I think Matthew's met her a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
I got to meet her for
Marie
the first time.
and I go way back.
Way back, yeah. But comes from a wonderful family and does just a wonderful service there in Haiti. And so looking forward to that. We have a nice, strong connection to the island there in Haiti. All right. Also wanted to talk to you just real quick before we go about sponsorship on our show. As I said before, I think we offer a couple of things that are unique. Number one is that we have a targeted audience. What I mean by that is that most of the people who tune into our show are in ministry and do ministry of one sort or another. And so if you're looking to reach that demographic, I think that we can do that for you. Also, advertising lives on, and maybe Matthew talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we have, like we've talked about next week, an upcoming episode with Mark Batterson, our last episode with him. I can't remember the number now. I sent it to you.
Yeah.
But it's lived on for a long time, and were it sponsored, your ad would live on, for your brand would live on for a long time with that episode as people continue to come across it and seek those kinds of things out. So definitely worth checking out at thetechnologyshow.com/sponsor.
All right. Heath, where can our listeners find you?
HeathMullican.com, Heath Mullican on Twitter, Heath Mullican all around the world.
Hey, I'm Matthew TG everywhere around the world.
AKC64 at both Twitter and Facebook. If you want to do further research on anything that we discussed today, you can find all the topics at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, please send your emails to thetechnologyshow@gmail.com, or better yet, why don't you pick up the phone? Give us a call at 3049-TEOLOGY. We may even play your comments on the air. As always, thanks for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Call us and tell us your $10 million shower idea so we can steal it. Bye.
Right. One day the guy on the buffalo said, "See you later."